go around the room and let everyone do their self-introductions. And then we are also going to go to the folks on Zoom and let you tell us who you are, what you do, and really glad to have you all here. So we're ready. Rachel, we want to start with you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Rachel Brumfield. I'm with Allen Tate Relocation and Corporate Services. We work with businesses in the Carolinas that are either moving their people in or out of the area. Good morning. I'm the owner of iTrip Vacation Charlotte. My name is Mary Ceccarelli, and if you've got any properties that you're looking into turning into a short-term property, come see me, and we'll give you the best rates, the best deals, and make that short-term rental dream come true.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. It's been a while. My name is Christelle Alabria. I'm with Helen Adams Realty. It's a local firm, family owned. We've been around for 45 years. So I specialize mainly in residential deals.
I'm Erin Nicolason. This is my first time here.
Thank you.
I'm the branch manager at Westa Bank in Huntersville. We are a community bank, as you can get, headquartered right in Cornelius. Been here, Westa's been here for 15 years, and just meeting new people and networking.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kara Lederbach, also my first time here this morning.
Oh, thank you.
I'm with Spot On. We help small and medium-sized businesses to connect with their customers, streamline operations, and grow revenues through innovative software and payment processing. And we are all across the U.S., but I'm kind of the local. We have a few of us here locally that service the whole Charlotte and surrounding areas.
Oh, good morning, everybody. I'm Marina Torres with Home Helpers in Cornelius. We are located right opposite the Illinois Chamber of Commerce. Right next to Goodwill, we provide quality in-home, non-medical care for seniors in our area, and excluding Gaston and off Mecklenburg County.
I'm William Burwell, the owner of Home Helpers Seeking Home Care, and I want to say hello and welcome to everyone, and I'm her counterpart.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Lexi Lane with Summit Vitality, and I love working with really proactive and goal-oriented people and reaching their healthiest peaks. I really do believe that health does determine our success and really helps us to get to where we want to be in life. So that's me, Dr. Lexi Lane.
Hi, everybody. Karen, not Karen. I have to say that all the time. I'm the editor of Mooresville Lakeside Living magazine that mails to about 5,000 homes in Mooresville along Raleigh School Road. Our counterpart is Cornelius Lakeside Living, which goes into mails to Cornelius, the peninsula, and other communities. So I'm always looking for nonprofits to feature, as well as feature families that are interesting or unique or diverse that we could feature at no cost. So anyway, if you know anybody in Mooresville that is interested to feature or a nonprofit, please let me know. Karen Dorchi.
Hi. I'm Melissa King with Overdose, and I'm just happy to be here. First time I'm here, so.
Yeah, well.
We have two people. We have two people on the line. We have Maureen and Leslie. Leslie, you want to unmute yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Leslie Reed. I am the director of Pet Pilgrimage. We're a division of Cabin Cook Funeral Home. We take care of your furry, scaled and feathered babies when they pass. And thank you so much. I'm working out in the Denver office. We have 2 locations, Mooresville and Denver. So thanks for letting me join on Zoom. I miss seeing all of y'all.
Maureen?
Bill.
Oh.
Maureen is our sponsor.
Well, good morning, ladies. I am Maureen Moore. I'm Director of Communications for Energy United, the local electric cooperative. I'm working remotely from home these days. Wish I could be with you in person this morning, but just couldn't work it out. Maybe next time. Looking forward to a great speaker this morning. So nice to be part of the group.
And Maureen, we want to thank Energy United. You are the breakfast sponsor today, and We are very thankful for that, and I believe we're also going to have you on for next month because you've given us a very generous donation. So thank you.
You're welcome. Our pleasure.
All right, Mr. Dees.
Okay, hi, I'm Denise Curley. I publish a magazine called Medical Professional Charlotte that goes to physicians in Mecklenburg County. So if you know of a great physician that you think should be featured or nominated to be featured, please let me know. Or if you know we can get in front of physicians in this area, please talk to me. Okay, you want to show us introduce them? So first of all, thank you, Rick Rowe, for hosting us today. We're very excited about that. Our supporting sponsor, Energy United, again, thank you very much. We appreciate the support. I am very, very excited to introduce Debbie. So I first met her, trying to figure out about 3 to 4 years ago when she spoke at another group that I'm a part of. And her talk just, I remember going to it thinking, and I brought a friend of mine, and I said to her, I said, I don't know what fentanyl is. I said, but just come to this talk and see, and it changed my life. She's amazing. So Debbie Dalton, this is about the shocking loss of her son, Hunter, which propelled her to be on a mission to educate and warn others with regard to recreational drug use, especially in light of growing drugs like illicit fentanyl. Her presentations provide hard facts, staggering statistics, and the heartbreaking consequences of life's story. Debbie is available to present life-saving information along with her compelling story to business groups, civic organizations, parents, students, youth groups. She spoke to another group that I'm a part of. I had to speak at Hull High School. I mean, it's all that you can do to spread the word. I can't say that about Debbie. So we'll hand this floor over to you. Thank you. I'm going to live up to that. Thank you. Yeah, everybody see the screen okay? Is it? I'm Debbie Dalton, as she said, and I'm going to talk about my favorite subject, which is my son, Hunter. But before I do, I think it's really important that you just get a glimpse into Hunter's life.
Little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you my game bird. And if that's my game bird, don't sing. Shoot that arrow, that's a good one. I love you, Hunter. That was sweet.
You don't know how you met me, you don't know why you can't turn around and say goodbye. All you know is when I'm with you, I make you free. It swims through your veins like a fish in the sea. I'm saying, follow me, everything is alright. I'll be the one to tuck you in at night. over the rainbow, way up high. The dreams that you dream of, what's in the love of mine. I hope somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday wish upon a star with where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top, it's where you find me. There was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty and moonlight of earth from you. She tied you to a kitchen chair, she broke your throne, she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah.
I don't mind the video, he said. What do you have to say for it? I love you, buddy.
That was just a little glimpse into Hunter's life. Grew up here, and I know that any parent that stands up and talks about their child, you're gonna sound like a bragging parent, a bragging mom, but you know, Hunter really did have something special. He, from the time he was a little guy, he was the happiest person I have ever known. Happy all the time, and he made it his mission in life to make sure the people around him were happy. Just the best attitude. He never saw color, size, shape, politics. He just loved everybody unconditionally, and that was truly his gift. One young man told me that he started Davidson Elementary School, and his words, he walked into the classroom toward the middle of the year, and he didn't look like the other students, and everybody was just staring at him. And he said, all of a sudden, this little guy from the furthest corner of the room ran up to him and grabbed his hand and said, you're gonna be my new best buddy. And they stayed friends and were friends in college and Phi Phi fraternity members together. Another young woman told me that she was at college with Hunter and she was overweight and very self-conscious about her weight. And she said every time she saw Hunter, he made her feel like Miss America. He just had this gift. He was active in sports. He loved his family fiercely. He was loved in return. You know, we were a family that grew up loving each other, loving God, living life to the fullest, and that was certainly Hunter for sure. And just a happy family. I don't know how else to say it. Everything going so well for us. And Hunter wasn't a huge fan of studying, but he managed to graduate college. So 2016, Hunter graduated from UNC Charlotte. And honestly, as a parent, you know that you worry about your kids forever and ever and ever. But once Hunter walked across that stage at UNC, you know, you do have a sense of, okay, the toughest part's done. You know, like, okay, now he's on his way, you know, out the door. Hunter helped start Orange Theory Fitness at age of 28 and worked there all through college. I also worked at Brookdale Golf Course. So, you know, he worked hard, had a good ethic as far as work and school. And once he graduated, he got a great job in Raleigh, Durham. And so September of 2016, my son moved to Raleigh, and we were so excited. He would say this, I'm just living the dream. You know, that was kind of another one of Hunter's quotes. There's a lot of them, but that was one of them. I'm just living the dream, Mom. And he came home for Thanksgiving, 2016, and we had an amazing Hallmark weekend. It was just one of those great weekends. You know, you eat too much food, you see your relatives, you play games, and just a really good weekend. And Sunday came time for him to head back. And of course, I did that mommy thing, where, you know, you walk down the driveway, waving ridiculously at him and leaving. He gave me a big hug and said he loved me, and that was Sunday after Thanksgiving. And then Sunday night, I got a text, home safe, Mom, love you the most. Monday, you know, nothing going on, just feeling back from the weekend, and it's a Monday. So one of those days, but really nothing stood out. And I sat down Monday evening to start writing Christmas cards. And I remember thinking, I paused for a second and I said, okay, now what's etiquette? It's always been Randy, Debbie, and Hunter, the three musketeers. You know, it's always been the three of us. But he's technically moved out of the house. So do I put his name on the card? I remember having that thought. And then I got a big old smile on my face. Of course, it's Hunter. And as I'm writing the card, my phone rang.
In a flash, with the blink of an eye, somebody you love could no longer be by your side. That's why That's why I'm feeling so heartbroken. Heard the news and my heart split open. At the start, hoped it was a sick joke. Then found out it was true. What to do? What to take? Swear this is a nightmare. The other week you were just right there. Now you're gone and it's a sad song, but we're supposed to stay strong and move along. Easier said than done. Went from living having fun to giving to your go fun. That's the type of shit I think about. Make me so numb. The type of shit to make you lay around. Make you have no fun. Yeah, depressed because it's so you knew it grew. The love was taken. The truth don't wanna face it. God gotta be mistaken. Just had the conversation and now you're on my bracelet. But guess it's right, the HD life is on any occasion. You just on a vacation. I see you on the beaches. I'm thinking about our memories. They're still leaving me speechless. I hope this lesson teaches someone that really needs it. Someone who never believed it cause they had never seen it. Y'all need to chill, I mean it. We don't want this repeated. I've seen effort anemic, so yeah, it got me heated. But we all have a weakness, and that is understood. So we need to use our knowledge as a gift, get it for good.
Happiness, determination, love, inspiration. Family, enjoyment, that's that HD life. Happiness, determination, love, inspiration. Family, enjoyment, that's that HD life. Happiness, determination, love, inspiration. Family, enjoyment, that's that HD life. Happiness, determination, love, inspiration. Family, enjoyment, that's that HD life.
Drinking rum and coke till 4 in the morning. Witnessing the first playoff win for the Hornets. Hit me with a text saying come through to the pregame. Now you can't text me at all, and I'm feeling deep pain. It's hard to keep saying, but I gotta keep safe. And an angel watching over me, make sure I'll be safe. Told me I'll be great, so I'm gonna make sure I will. Gonna make sure I fulfill life through your spirit, live for the thrill.
Happiness, determination, love, inspiration. Family, enjoyment, that's that HD life. Happiness, determination, love, inspiration. Family, enjoyment, that's that HD life. Happiness, determination, love, inspiration. Family, enjoyment, that's that HD life. Happiness, determination, love, inspiration. Family, enjoyment, that's that HD life.
Yeah, HD. Gone but never forgotten. One of a kind. That's why you live on forever. My brother for life. You always told me keep pushing. I have what it takes. So I'm gonna continue this dream. And I'ma do it in honor of you. Yeah. Live that HD life. Yeah, it's only right. It's only right for that HD life.
How many of you had heard of fentanyl before coming here today? A good bit of you, which is not the norm, sadly, still. Take this away. This is the biggest message that I give is what you can't see. And this says can kill you, I say will kill you. It's a whole new world out there, and I'm going to tell you about that and the dangers that are out there. I wish that somebody had talked to Hunter or me, because we had no idea about fentanyl. The street name for fentanyl is drop-dead drug or serial killer drug. Fentanyl was never supposed to be out in the streets, obviously, not in drugs. Fentanyl was originally designed for end-of-life pain, severe pain, and under a doctor's very careful watch. It's 100% stronger than morphine. It's extremely addictive. But unfortunately, it made it to the streets. So what happened to Hunter? My son fell into a group that is out there more than most people know, that think it's okay to do recreational drugs. You know, he would smoke a little weed, not a big deal. And occasionally, if there was some coke, maybe that was part of their party plan, but nothing serious. Hunter never went out looking for drugs. He wasn't selling drugs. And I'm not a mom in denial. We shared a bank account. We've got his phone. We have access to that. And his friends have all talked about it. Hunter came home that Thanksgiving weekend and very serendipitously ran into a good friend of his at the mall. And that good friend gave Hunter some coke. They joked about it. And that Monday night, Hunter talked to his roommate and said, you know, dude, what am I doing? I'm 23 years old. I don't need to be messing with this stuff. But he made a joke about it. He said, but it was given to me, you know, you got to do what you got to do kind of thing. And his roommate told me that it would have typically been more him that would have done it, meaning the roommate, but he had a project he was working on. And my son walked into his room and snorted one line of the coke, and it was covered with fentanyl. And it took my 6'3", very healthy son down, gave him a heart attack. Now, he was so strong that they were able to revive him, the paramedics. Sadly, his roommate didn't know CPR. They tried to talk him through it, you know, which is another lesson for all of us parents. That's just such a simple class for your kids. But they were able to revive him. And my husband and I were racing to Raleigh. We couldn't even wrap our head around overdose, you know. And I knew because when my phone rang that night, it was Hunter. It was his phone. And I picked it up and I heard his roommate on the phone. And I knew it was bad, but I was ready for he's been in a car accident or, you know, something. And when I heard overdose, and the whole way to Raleigh, we're trying to call the hospital, we're trying to see what's going on. And this is how numb doctors are. I'm a mom who is terrified for her son. And I talked to one nice doctor for a while. I get another doctor that tells me that they don't want to bring that to me. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he goes, what do you want me to say to you? People die of overdoses every day. Word for word what this doctor said, which started a whole other screaming when we get to the hospital. This doctor that we saw was a little more optimistic. Man, this is a healthy kid. He's got a strong heart. We were very optimistic. I sat with my son in the hospital and held his hand for 7 days and never regained consciousness. And was just shocked at what had happened. And that doesn't even seem like strong enough word. This gives you an example of how potent fentanyl is compared to heroin, and that's a lethal dose of fentanyl versus heroin. They told us, because Hunter's what they called opioid naive, he didn't use hard drugs. Take your salt shaker, do that. That's all it took. And I would love to say that fentanyl is the only thing that we have to worry about, but there's a drug that's actually worse that's out there now, fentanyl. It was never even designed for human consumption. It's an elephant tranquilizer. And it's out there and it's in the drugs on the street. Both of these. To give you even more in your face, which is how shocking all this is. 1 million doses of potentially fentanyl can fit in a shoebox. 1 million doses. 1 million of fentanyl can fit in a golf ball. And these are the things that are out there. And I know that when I do my speak, when I talk, and I was saying this to some of the ladies before, I always get empathy from parents, students even. But I also get, oh, thank goodness I'm not, you know, I would never do drugs. My kids would never do drugs. I can't say it enough, it's not you until it is. And it takes 1 second, 1 second, one decision. These aren't the kind of drugs that we had back in, one of the older ones, but a long time ago, you know, people could experiment a little bit with drugs. And then you went on your merry way, but that's not the case now. Because now they have found a way to put the fentanyl in pills. So you've got a student that is going off to college that is not going to use drugs. And I do this when I say drugs because it just encompasses everything now. But let's say they've got an exam and they're stressed about it and they've got a really good friend. Because keep in mind, this is one of her best friends that gave him the coke, who had no idea there was fentanyl in it. So you get a pill from one of your best friends, take a little Xanax, relax. There is no trusted source, there is no trusted drug. And since I have been immersed in this world for 4 years now, I have had the most gut-wrenching stories told. Half of Xanax. There was one on social media that I paid close attention to, partly because the young man reminded me of Hunter. He was good looking, and his aunt wrote just a heartbreaking story. Gunther is his name, from California, 19 years old, and him and his buddy were out at the party and out with friends. Came home. So parents are, hey, kids are home safe, I've done my job, had pizza with his sister, talked to the parents. Parents get up the next morning and both boys are dead. They had taken a Percocet that a friend had at the party, a Percocet, because they're thinking, and some of the other kids at the party was, we don't want to do drugs, but we want to see how it feels to feel high. Well, Percocet, that's in my parents' medicine cabinet, or I've seen that and I hear about that. Xanax, Percocet, Adderall, all these drugs. And these illegal pill presses are everywhere. There's a story out of Kissimmee, Florida, near the happy place, near Orlando. A man named Eric Rukowski, that 911 got a phone call from his house. They show up, there's a woman that's unresponsive. And it's his girlfriend, and she's deceased. They opened his garage, and this is similar to what they found at Eric Rukowski's house. If he had gotten pill press on eBay, one of his other things was on Amazon, and a V mixer. And you've got to keep in mind too that even under the best situations in the lab, there were doctors with degrees. This is such a finite process. And these are people who don't even have, probably not past elementary school, they're mixing these drugs. Well, they arrest this guy, Eric. He gets out on bail. And he takes his little drug business up to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And in a 24-hour period, over 40 people overdosed from pills that they'd gotten from Eric, because he couldn't afford to buy a new D mixer, which sort of maybe would help him. He chopped off a milk gallon, a gallon of milk container, and was mixing it in there. And one of the fatalities, not everybody that overdosed passed, but one of the fatalities was president of PTA, a mother of 3 that had got addicted to pain pills in a car accident and had no choice but to go to the street to get the pain pills. And that's all it took. Question I get asked a lot. If it's so strong, why doesn't everyone die? Well, part of it is the process. Like even that batch that took my precious Hunter, he could have gotten all the fentanyl in that one line of coke because it is not distributed professionally. That's one of the reasons. Tolerance to opioids, we already talked about that. High risk opioid naive. And then there are people on the streets that have done heroin and have done some of the harder drugs that have more of a, they're able to take the fentanyl and actually want that bump and are looking for it sometimes. But since we mentioned that, I do have to say, because I also am so involved with so many families that have been in hell with somebody they love addicted. Nobody wakes up and says that they're going to be an addict. I was that person 4 years ago. I was that person that thought an addict was somebody in the alley. An overdose was that same person in an alley with a needle and gone. I had no idea how mainstream this is. Kids start out with these drugs, and the difference is they can't control the drugs now. The drugs are going to control them. You just can't. There was a documentary that they did about Hunter. There was a young man on this documentary. Sarah Blake Morgan did it. And I had the opportunity to meet a very nice looking young man, came from a well-to-do family in South Charlotte, had a loving, caring family, admittedly by him, he loved them. And he sat there and told me, I know I'm probably gonna die. And for me, you just want to shake him and say, stop doing the drugs, stop. That's not how it goes. And he told me, he said, I'm not even running to the high anymore, I'm running from the low. I gotta talk about weed, and I will tell you that when I get in schools, as soon as I mention that, it's snicker, 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 snicker. You know, kids really have a misconception that because weed is legalized in some states, that's a drug that's safe for me to use. And that's not the case. There was a young man in the hospital, Hunter's nurses told me about, that had been at a party and smoked some weed, and somebody had put bath salt in it. Why, we don't know why, but they did. This young man was released the day that Hunter was put in the hospital, severely brain damaged, and will never live a normal life because of 1 second, one decision, and no second chances. Some of the statistics I have, this is from 2017. And even that is shocking to think that you combine gun homicides and motor vehicle accidents together, and there's more overdoses than those both combined. You know, and as parents, you just worry about your kid in a car, and he's more likely to pass from an overdose than a car crash in today's world. And even though this is 2017, I will tell you that the numbers started trending slightly better in 2019, but COVID has blown everything up. They're escalating. The numbers are just out of control. And the year that I lost Hunter, in 2016, there were more deaths from overdoses than the entirety of the Vietnam War, which is a 30-year war. I mean, they're just staggering statistics, and you can wonder why it's not the headline. When President Trump was in office, he declared a national emergency because of how bad everything has gotten. It's a nonpartisan issue. I don't care who's in office. I just want somebody taken care of. You know, another question that I get asked is, why put the fentanyl in the drug? Okay, that's a very fair question. It's not a good business practice to kill your customers. But here's the thing, the first thing is drug dealers up here. These drugs are coming from China and from Mexico. It was a really interesting piece on 2020, and the guy actually bought drugs online, bought fentanyl from China. And while he's talking to the woman, he says to her, why are you selling them over here? She said, because I'll get in trouble if I sell them in my country. Some pretty heavy stuff, you know. The other thing is, they're so addictive. Let's say Hunter had survived. The drugs are so addictive that if one dose could actually have Hunter out on the street the next day looking for drugs. They're that addictive. Celebrity overdoses, you know, we think that we're parents and that we're doing everything we can, but I mean, look at the people that these celebrities have vetting everything for them. And that still didn't save them. Prince, I don't know if you know this, but Prince was at a concert in Atlanta. And he overdosed on the plane coming back from Atlanta. It took 4 shots of Narcan to revive him. But he survived. He goes to his palace, Purple Palace, I think they call it. And there was a celebrity intervention. I'm not going to say that word right, so I'm not going to say it. Celebrity drug person. I can try finding my words this morning. That heard what happened and wanted to intervene and come help Prince. So Prince knew that he almost died a week ago, and Prince was not a partier. He was not a drug user or a big drinker. He had hip problems, and again got addicted to pain pills and was getting them on the street. He had no history of drug use. But now here's a man that knew that he almost died a week earlier. He knows that this celebrity helper is coming to his house. He's got an appointment with him to talk to him and to help him, and he's still overdosed. And the Good Samaritan law, I want to talk to everybody about that because a lot of people are not familiar. And one of the things that has been an ongoing repetitive story, again, in this world that I'm immersed, are groups of people out partying. And somebody goes down and the rest of the group panics and leaves. And there are so many stories where the child could have been saved, the adult, whoever, but everybody panicked they would get in trouble. And so they don't call. I have been telling students, you don't want to be left behind. And you also don't want to be that person that leaves somebody behind. And it has gotten more serious as far as prosecution in the sense, this videoing your drunk friend or videoing the person that's passed out and you don't know what's going on with them, they are starting to prosecute along those lines. Now, I will say with regard to the Good Samaritan law in North Carolina, stuff is happening right now. I'm working with the Attorney General's office because North Carolina had the first Good Samaritan law passed in the United States, one of the very first states, if not the first state. So it was the most restrictive. And right now, the wording of the Good Samaritan law excludes fentanyl, which is the #1 cause of overdose in the world right now, not just in North Carolina and certainly in the United States. So there's a bill that is going to the House this week, Bill 852, where they're changing the wording. Now, I have had an opportunity to talk to a lot of law enforcement officers, and they have all assured me that they don't arrest and prosecute in these cases. But we want to make sure the wording of the law is in our favor. So we don't get that one guy that decides to arrest a kid and put them through that, even though they won't be prosecuted. We want to save them from being arrested for whatever is going on. But certainly share this with people. You know, don't leave anybody behind. It's been 4 years for me. It's still not real. And it's so senseless. It's just so senseless. If he had known, my son loved life more than anybody I've ever met, as I said. And if he had known about fentanyl, or I had known, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. That's the reality of it. He would have never risked his life. He made a bad decision. Hunter would own that if he was here. It was a stupid decision to snort some coke. I own that, he would own that. But unless everybody has all the facts, you know, again, it's nobody can control the drugs that are out there. They're going to control you. And right now, the choices that our young people or whoever, I don't even, adults still messing with this stuff. You got two paths that you're going to end up. One is going to be as an addict because they're so addictive. You've heard all the news. Pharmaceutical companies misled us for years, and that's an ongoing thing. Xanax is the most addictive drug out there. So that's one path. And the other path is disease. That's how strong the drugs are. I spent 3 hours on the phone with a woman last week that her son started at 15 years old, he a sports injury. It's a sports injury. And not knowing as a parent, the doctor's saying he needs this, let's give him this, you know. He became addicted. She, for 3 hours, told me how her life had been for 10 years. Gut-wrenching, heartbreaking. Not being able to do anything for her child, you know, addicted, and the stigma that goes along with that, and the lack of resources. And that's one thing our foundation is partnering with some of these other foundations. We want to eradicate that stigma. It's a disease. It's not a choice by anybody to do this. And this poor young man, finally, and the mom told me that she's struggling with guilt now because she actually had the thought that he'd be better off dead. That's how horrible his life was. It's so serious. And I just pray that Hunter's story, you know, I think there's two things to take away when you hear my story about Hunter. One is certainly go out and live the HD life. You know, hug somebody, well, nowadays, elbow somebody that you normally wouldn't have, open a door for a stranger, you know, be kind and just don't be angry about politics. I am still learning lessons from my beautiful son every single day. But then also certainly take away the lesson of the tragedy, the sense of fault. I feel like Hunter be president someday. I mean, I know we all think that about it, but he just, the world needs more Hunter, and we certainly don't need to lose him in such a sensitive way. What can you all do? Share his story. If you know somebody that is connected to schools, magazines, obviously that is what our foundation is about. We're a 501c3 company, and everything that we're doing is to try to save lives and to spread the message. I want to get back to the schools. I was telling some of the people February of 2020 was my last school, and I had 1,400 students in the audience. And the school told me they brought in extra counselors. I've got letters and letters from these students. And this is not me, good job, Debbie. This is me saying that these students needed to hear this. Parents need to hear it. I mean, I still am talking constantly, and I never heard of fentanyl. I didn't know that that existed. I certainly didn't know they were putting it in Xanax and Percocet and Adderall and drugs that would be easy to persuade my kid that we typically would not do drugs. It's a scary, scary thing, and when I go to school, I hope I scare the heck out of all of them. And I will tell you that in the school setting, I also talk about underage drinking, because I think that that's also so important, and there's a lot of misinformation about that. And I don't want to scare them off drugs and into drinking too young, or that kind of thing. So if anybody knows of any situations where I can come speak, and even everybody here, go to our Facebook page and like it, and help us get the word out and maybe save a life. And I really appreciate so much the Wynn's group and Sylvia and Bill doing the filming, and Denise, it's so good to see you again. And the connections that I made this morning already. This is all for Hunter. He pushes me every day. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Well, thank you for your stories. I can say to myself, but I think I had 2 young kids, 10 and 5. So, what makes one child, any age, just say, you know what, I don't need that for that moment, versus another child, you just try a little bit.
That's a really good question, and I will tell you that I know in Hunter's case, it wasn't peer pressure. He was a leader. He wasn't a follower. Hunter was very outgoing, and I'm not saying all outgoing people. I don't think that there's a definitive answer to that as much as there's a definitive answer to you cannot do a generic drug talk with your kids. You cannot, that all drugs are bad for you. And I thought that I had good conversations, but I'll be honest, I wasn't freaked out about smoking weed when he got older. I mean, in the scheme of things, it wasn't like he was doing it all the time. I mean, I knew that he'd done it. I mean, and at that point he's grown, what they do. But hindsight, going back to 12-year-old Hunter, and I remember even Hunter telling me, Dare coming in his school, and the officer saying, and it wasn't just Hunter, because I might have, I fact checked that one, that if you feel like you've got to try something, weed. They were actually told that from a Dare officer. Stay away from all the other drugs, kind of things. So what I would have done differently is I would have done my research. How did I not know that there was something like that out there? Because I know, to answer your question, there's a big difference in an attitude of I'm going to try something, see what it feels like to get high, or I'm going to try something and I might die. I probably will die. There's moms that lost 2 sons at a party. She had 3 sons, all hockey players, and you may have heard this story. 2 of them went to a party, tried ecstasy for the first time. First time both of them died. Just again, the language, and certainly in Gunter's case, Percocet. Why would you think that? But very good question. Hopefully I helped with the answer. I've been talking to middle schools, and my sister and I are actually trying to come up with a program for elementary school students. Obviously much more simpler But by middle school, the drugs were there.
Well, I think about that a lot as my daughter's 10. So, you know, when is a good time and how much at that time to disclose? You know,
Well, at 10 years old, I would already be talking to her for sure.
I have a distant family member who is an opioid addict. And it's been a road for his family. We feel terrible for him, but he's been back in rehab twice for abusing something called Kratom or Kraton. It's some kind of a tea that he's been drinking. It actually put him in ICU with kidney failure.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to ever be regulated? Are they looking at that? Because to me, that's maybe a diluted version of opioids, but it's put him in rehab twice.
Right. And to answer your question, don't feel real comfortable about anything that's being regulated right now.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me started on vaping, and that definitely for your 10-year-old and young people. I have parents that tell me, oh, they're not smoking, they're vaping. I'm like, you know how much worse vaping is? And that's where they're getting it. But nobody thought to regulate vaping. And that tea, I've heard of that. As a matter of fact, our foundation got a young man. That's the other sad thing. You don't want to wait till you're trying to help them because the resources aren't there, the money's not there. Once they're adult, they don't have insurance. It's horrific. We jumped through, I don't know how many hoops we got this young man in the rehab in Florida. And he got kicked out for using the tea. They caught the tea in one of his tests. So there's even a more infamous story. There's a group called Safe Project. It's a foundation. That's an admiral that started that. They spent a fortune on their son. He was in rehab for a solid year and good to go, came out and went to college and overdosed. So it's never too young. I mean, obviously, I have seen where doctors are starting to do dialogue for parents, you know, and that's something to look at. And I know that there's a book, Laura Happ, Happe, who's local, wrote a book for parents to help with children. And so that book is out there, that resource that it's like, everybody here's heard that book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. She did that book on that page. You know, if you take a Xanax, if you take a this, you're gonna want a this.
And I just want to say, I have a 26-year-old daughter that lives in Asheville, and she is very much into marijuana and a lot of other things, I'm sure. And she's at the point where she, at 14, I found a pipe in her closet, and she, you know, confronted her, of course, and she said, "Oh no, my friends," and you know, I believed her because I didn't think anything. My daughter is honest. She's a steady student. She's doing great. That wasn't the case, but I feel like today the problem is that the kids trust each other. So like your son,
very good point.
He trusted that girl, and my daughter trusts these other people in the restaurant business that she works with, or that, you know, so it becomes so mainstream that somebody says, "Hey, you know, I got some really good pot, so let's smoke that tonight," or they trust each other. Where
And they can't.
If she asks, you know, I'm sure you're a great person, but if some random strangers, you know, or somebody I barely know offered you something, I'm not necessarily going to say, "Oh, let me try your drink," but they do, and I don't understand why they do. Why do they trust each other in this day and age to just take something or buy something from somebody they barely know?
Well, because they're also still uneducated and misinformed. They don't realize the severity. It's not you until it is. There's also that mentality. I'm invincible. I'm a certain age, and I'm going to be silly for a few years, and then I'll settle down and be an adult and do what I'm supposed to do and do these things. But again, I can reiterate, it was one of Hunter's closest friends, a young man that gave him just thinking, "Hey, I'm helping a buddy out. Go have a good night on me." And he's been tortured and there's really some issues with him for a while, but he's good now.
my question, my best friend from home, her brother just passed away from similar Syrian experience. I think in October, he took a painkiller, they said, talking about, and it was laced with fentanyl. But same thing, it came from a friend, and my question is, you know, are they, obviously, like you said, you didn't know, but are they doing, the police doing any sort of tracing to figure out, you know, where is this coming from, to try to get, you know, putting fentanyl on these drugs and getting the drug dealers involved?
Yeah.
Is there anything going on with that?
What they're
During
doing is
situations?
they're prosecuting the people that knowingly, that's a little slippery slope there, but that knowingly put the drug or sell the drug knowing that there's fentanyl in it. They're being prosecuted. Actually, there was a young lady in Mooresville about 3 years ago. And the young man who gave it to her knew, and he was prosecuted for voluntary manslaughter, but prosecuted.
So for any situation, this kid, like wherever he got it from, they try to like go back.
Here's what happened with Hunter. I think somehow because Hunter was in the hospital for 7 days, you know, there wasn't a police at his scene, at his apartment. None of that ever happened for us, and obviously we were so shocked. We didn't know. It was 6 months after we lost Hunter. I got a text in the middle of the night from this young man, and it said, "Dear God, can you ever forgive me?" And of course, Randy and I immediately said, "We forgive you. We wish we had known earlier. We would have been there for you," because I know he didn't intentionally do this. But they are, you know, and here's the thing too, with substance use disorder being such a factor, you also have empathy for people that is out of their control, and you want to help them, not prosecute them. So we're really skirting a fine line of when do you arrest them versus get them help. But yes, if I could find a man that put the fentanyl in the cocaine in my swim cup, I also would not be standing there. I would be someplace that had some bars for decorations, for sure. I mean, there's no excuse for them doing that.
No.
And it's a money thing. Fentanyl is so much cheaper.
That's what I was gonna ask, because you didn't really mention.
Yeah,
basically, they're helping you save money.
Oh,
There should be much more
Pure
drugs.
magic cocaine, fentanyl is so inexpensive to make. So that's also a big drive of it. Besides the fact that they don't care, maybe I'll get some extra customers because they're gonna get addicted so much easier. But it is very inexpensive. It should have never been, I don't even know if we needed it or what they used it for, but it, like I said, it was designed for end-of-life severe pain. And I talked to a man that had cancer that was on fentanyl under a doctor's care, and he told me he would rather take the cancer pain than the withdrawal he had from fentanyl. And that's under a doctor's care. So very scary stuff. Any other questions?
So anyone on Zoom have a question?
Yeah. And to your point, when you asked about when you mentioned it to your daughter, when I first heard that, so like I said, when she first came to our group to speak, I'd never heard of fentanyl. I had no idea what it was. My girls were 12, 13, and 14 at that time. When I got them, the first thing I did was make them watch her video. And we have talked about it over and over and over again. I almost think sometimes it's better to scare the crap out of kids. I'd rather do that if they never want to try something. So, but I cannot thank you again enough. I love you so much, and I appreciate you sharing your story. Promote this. If you can get her into the school, the more the word is spread, the better off we all are. So, we thank you very, very much. Thank you guys very much. We have a meeting next month, June 8th, but July and August we will not be meeting.
June will be a